Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of It's a Dad Thing podcast. Now, I know this isn't how we normally start out the show, but this episode was recorded about 4 days before my son was born. He's now about 2 months old, healthy, well, doing fine. However, the show has taken a little bit of an accidental hiatus, one of those have a baby in the middle of a worldwide pandemic type of hiatuses. I know a lot has happened the last 2 months, and Steve and I are going to talk about it. We're going to get some new episodes, some new content going as soon as we can. But in the meantime, enjoy this episode and think of it as a little bit of a time capsule to 2 months in the past. All right. Enjoy, everybody.
Hey guys, I'm Steven Farnsworth.
And I'm Grant Babbitt.
And you're listening to It's a Dad Thing podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of It's a Dad Thing podcast. Steven, how are you, my brother?
I am awesome, dude. How are you hanging in there?
I was going to say I'm awesome, but man, you know what? It's been a crazy week. Let me just put it this way. I know I feel like I say that every time now, especially because of the quarantine, but actual crazy week. Okay. As of recording right now, we are 4 days away from baby arriving. So by the time this is out, baby's probably here. But yeah, I mean, just with everything going on, right, with COVID, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, with all this going on, and we're about to head into a hospital and have a baby is nerve-wracking. And then on top of that, here's what happened this week. I'm not allowed to go to appointments with my wife anymore, right, for sonograms or anything else. So she went to her very last appointment. That was right before the birth. And I think that was on Tuesday, or I can't remember exactly what day it was, but I think it was the day we were talking about doing a podcast and it didn't work out. And I'm so glad we didn't try to do it because it was a crazy day. She left at 9:15, 9:30 to go to the doctor's appointment by herself in the van. And she got on the freeway. And as soon as she got on the freeway, the van would stop accelerating. So she got stuck on the freeway, calls me up. Hey, by the way, I'm just getting the kids ready for their school day. They're having breakfast. It's just us. We don't have family here, so we're not quarantining with anybody. You know, it's just us. And we have to say, okay, well, I have to come get you, but she has the one car with all the car seats, so I can't take the kids. So we had to find someone to come over with the kids, which already is a stressful thing because of what's going on. So we had to do that. I had to let my guard down to be able to try to figure out how to do it. So we have the kids playing with their person that come over to help them with all their masks on inside the house. Very strange sight. Go get my wife. Actually, on the phone with her, she says, oh, a police officer comes up behind us. Police officer comes up behind her and says, ma'am, you're not in a safe place. Can we just tow you to another location? She tows her to a McDonald's parking lot. So I meet her at McDonald's parking lot after getting somebody to come into our house to watch kids. I get to her about 10 o'clock. We call for roadside assistance. By 10:30, they say, okay, we're ready. We're coming out there. So now it's my wife and I just sitting in a McDonald's parking lot in this weird, bizarro world where I go, gosh, this feels like a date right now. Even though clearly the car broke down, but it's like the first time we've had a babysitter or anything in so long. So it was like, this is like a weird, like, you know, a date right now. So anyway, we check on the roadside assistance. The tow truck should be coming. I look at it. It's 10:30. It says tow truck's coming at 12:30. Oh, crap. Okay. All right, so that's 2 hours. We're not going to wait here for 2 hours. Let me see if I can get you home. So I call them, hey, is this really 2 hours? Yeah, it's really 2 hours. Okay, cool. I'm going to take my wife home. I'll be back. So I take her home, drop her off. She does her thing. I come back and I sit with our van. And for 2 hours, I wait. And then I wait a little longer. And then I wait a little longer. And it's 1 o'clock and that's not working. So I hop on my Zoom call, which is my class virtually in the McDonald's parking lot on my phone.
Seriously?
I do a whole hour and a half of my class and I'm like, there still is no tow truck here. 2 o'clock I call and they say, 1 o'clock I called and I said, hey, where are you guys at? And they said, oh, sorry, we got busy. We'll be there in 45 minutes. 2 o'clock rolls by, 3 o'clock rolls by. Nobody is there until about 3:30. So finally, this thing happened at 9:30 a.m. The tow truck comes at 3:30. Now here's the fun part. Okay. We go to the shop. I go in. Okay, let's talk about it. You can look at the car tomorrow because it's later in the day now. We'll talk about it then. Great. Here's what I'll pay you. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Right. Get it all set up to get it work done. I walk out to my car. I sit in it. Turn the key. Oh,
No.
you got to be kidding me. My car is not working now. So then I have to walk back inside and go, hey, can you do a 2-for-1 deal? Because right now, my car's not working. My car's not working. I can't get an Uber to go home. Come on, help me out here. So luckily it was just a battery. I got a battery changed, went home, fine. Okay, one down, waiting for the owner to be ready. So that's my week.
Sheesh.
But on top of that, we got a baby coming. So, fun stuff. Anyway, yeah, crazy week. But I mean,
Good grief, man.
It's not out of the norm. This is kind of what happens. So it's, it's fine. We deal with it. We roll with the punches. We go. So yes, that's been a week. But I'm excited to be sitting here and talking to you guys and having some adult interaction and just talking to people, because this quarantine is, getting you crazy sitting by yourself or being mauled by your kids every day. So, this is nice.
And I feel like my story is so minor. One, I don't have a pregnant wife and she wasn't driving on the freeway, but we did put our car in the shop of like, okay, well, we're going to need some brakes. Now's the time. We can leave it for like a week if we need to, no biggie. We do all that. And then I drive away. It's like, hey, it's fixed. I drop off the other car, just going to get an oil change. I start driving away and all of a sudden heat comes out of the air conditioner. And I'm like, this is weird. I'm like 2 minutes down the road. Why is there so much heat? I just turned the air conditioner on. Then I reach over to the other side of the car, cool air, nothing but nice cool air. I'm like, this is so weird. So then I drive it back to him and he's like, well, I'm so busy right now. I can't look at it. I'll have to look at it in a few days. So then I got to drive that car home, which at the end of the day, it's not that big a deal because it doesn't really impact anything. It's just more frustrating. Plus, I don't have a pregnant wife and it wasn't a whole day adventure. But apparently this is the week of fun car adventures.
It's okay. I had a conversation with somebody and they said, I was just like, oh, we're breaking down. It's crazy. It's crazy. And they said, hey, wouldn't you rather it happen this week than next week? And I said, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So yes,
figured out, Grant?
What's that?
You have transportation figured out for a hospital?
Once the van is fixed, we do. Until then,
what a great pregnancy.
Yeah, well, we should actually introduce our guest for those on the podcast that are like, who is this random person talking?
What's this magical voice?
We have a good friend of mine, Zach Winters, on the podcast this week. I'm super excited. Zach is a father of 3. He's been married for a little over 13 years. Zach, welcome to the podcast. And if I missed anything, introduce yourself for everybody out there.
Hi, Zach.
Hey. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's I like what you guys are doing. I like that dads are actually talking to each other about different things. Yeah, that's great. It's great to be here. It's like a pretty soggy morning, which is why my room might look a little bit dark. But we just had one of the biggest like thunder cracks that I've ever heard. It was just like, my wife saw it just a couple blocks, or maybe like a block or so down the street. So it was a stormy little morning.
Well, so if you're getting a storm and you're getting thunder cracks, you're definitely not in LA because it's very far between when we get those. So where are you at?
Say, but I will say this: 2 times I've been in LA, it has stormed. One time I did hear thunder, and I think it was at your house, Steven.
Was it in March?
Rob.
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
I don't remember.
Okay, I remember the first time I ever visited LA was a similar experience. I came with like a senior trip with my college, and it was like, oh wow, this is cool, sunny LA, and like palm trees, and we're landing, and it is pouring down rain. And then it poured down rain the whole week we were there. And I was like, where are like the bikinis and babes and beaches and like it's just rain? This is such a lie. And then I found out every year around spring break, it just rains all week for like 1 week in March. And I know we have a drought and stuff. We've been through that, but it's like this weird. It's like there's 1 week that just torrential downpour in LA quotes.
Perfect planning.
Yes, but that was my introduction too. So I'm with you, man. At that whole going from the Midwest to LA, you're like, I thought it was going to be sunny the whole time. Most of the time,
But we're in Tulsa, and which is actually where I grew up, but haven't been here in something like 17 or 18 years.
Is it weird going back?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it like, I mean, it's right. Is it one of the, I mean, is it one of those things where like the town feels smaller, or just things have changed so much over the years? Like, what's your take on it?
I don't want to say too prematurely because
Okay.
we've been here since August, but a friend of mine who is in a similar situation being back in Tulsa put it like this, that he can't get lost here.
Okay.
And I feel like that kind of expresses the feeling of, I know this place, there's a lot of new cool things going on, like a lot of cool mom and pop shops, independently owned businesses, which I love. But at the same time, you know, when I think about exploring our new town as a family, it's new to our family.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels kind of strange.
I bet.
So I'm still acclimatizing, I guess.
I hear
Well,
I
and
go
there's
back
like
to-
that memory factor, right? Like you're driving down this road, and I know every time I go back home, it's like I'm driving down the road and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing that, or that brings up some other memory. It's like a totally different experience where you're almost reliving things in a different way rather than
Yeah.
creating an experience.
Yeah, and some of them I feel like I need to like beat old memories into submission, and like I'm carving a new like brain, you know, path for when I drive down this road I now think of, and kind of trying to reassign certain things, or just, you know, I don't know. Yeah, it's an odd sensation.
Things change like that. Like in Kansas, when I go back to Kansas, especially, you know, around my parents' house, they've changed the freeways highways. Highways is what we say back in the Midwest. Freeways out here. So I'm all messed up. But they changed the highways around, right? So now this one has this weird overpass that it never had before. So as opposed to before, I used to just get in the car and drive, and I knew where I went. And I would never think of using GPS then. Now I get in the car, and I don't know if it's because I've been here for more years or it's because I played football too long as a kid, but I just have a hard time remembering now because it's like, yeah, where is that place? I can see it, but I don't really know how to get through this new maze of what have you done. And the college town that we used to live in, it was so easy. We'd go from my parents' house, we'd drive up the interstate, and then boom, our house is right off of it. Now you have to take this like weird exit and go around. And I'm like, this isn't right. Like, so I've missed my own exit to where the house where I used to live, like right before we moved to LA many times going out there. So it's very weird going back, but that's cool. I'm glad you guys are there. I'm sure that's really neat to like, at least experience that and be like, this is my childhood, and now I get to share this with my kids.
Yeah, and I can't like the big pull for us is that both my parents and my wife's parents are in the Tulsa area. So like my kids getting to reconnect with them in kind of a deep way, especially after a year of living in Mexico, was just a good strong sell for the time being. And you know, when I'm an old man, I would love to be able to have like a proximity, close relationship with my grandkids. So there's some of that in there. And Lane's parents have my wife's parents have a bit of a farm, some land, some horses, chickens and whatnot. So and a pond out there. So the kids do love going out there as well. It's good times.
You said you lived in Mexico. So how long were you down there? What kind of kick started you guys deciding to move to Mexico as a family? And then, you know, was there anything that indicated like, okay, it's time for us to stop this portion of our life and move on to the next chapter?
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
So we kind of live some of our life and our planning on the cycles of albums. So when an album is out and it's been toured on and promoted as much as we can, then it's like, well, it's going to probably be a time of introversion, and we're writing and working on a new record. So we had gotten to that time, putting out a new record and touring on it. And we'd had this like dream for a number of years of we'd love to live in another country and kind of force our kids to learn Spanish. And so with that kind of opening up and the fact that I record at home and then record with a lot of people remotely, I was like, well, we could try this year. I don't know. And I kind of like actually I have developed some dorky tendencies or managerial tendencies as a musician.
Okay.
So I made some spreadsheets. I'm like, here's like here's like best case scenario financially, and then worst case scenario financially. And I'm like, we're gonna survive either one, and we really want to do this. And I can't imagine that it'll get any easier to do this as time goes on.
Sure.
So yeah, so it was so great. We went down to Yucatan, down pretty far south. We were in the state of Yucatan, in the peninsula of Yucatan, and yeah, we just we got an apartment for a year, and the kids came back all speaking Spanish, and we actually followed that up this year in Tulsa with a Spanish immersion school, which was great. Very for cool. The older two. And yeah, so I recorded the record. Just kept working from down there and trying to manage stuff back in the States. And I popped up to tour a couple times, like did a tour in the Northeast a few months before we went back to the States, and one that was kind of in the Midwest a little bit. Yeah, but really it was just like counting the cost of what this meant versus kind of like the dream that we hoped for, and it was just like the sweetest payoff. And we made a lot of friends in Mexico, but we also had a total of like 25 people come visit us. Wow. Which was pretty fun as well. So
you're in a vacation home at that point, right? Everybody, yeah, a vacation destination for people.
Yeah. I mean, nice. A lot of people think of that, specifically the Yucatan Peninsula, with the cenotes and beaches and food and stuff. It's pretty great.
Very cool. Well, so that's also I love the fact that you're a nerd and a creative at the same time. That's a clear mix of Steven and I, for sure.
Yeah.
So like you're a nice baby of us, I guess. I don't know. That's
yes.
Weird, but I'm okay with weird. So you mentioned that you worked remotely and that you kind of go through phases and albums. So one thing I want to ask about, because now everybody is, if they can, everybody is working remotely. So how is the coronavirus and COVID, like how is all that affecting not only your family life, but also like how you're able to record and create that art?
Yeah. So family life and then recording creative life. Family life, honestly, has been great. Like the classic American family, we have a few peripheral things that happen every week that, my oldest started playing soccer in league. So it was like 2 or 3 nights out of the week, he would be going and doing something. And our daughter had started some gymnastics, and our youngest is he loves like staying at home at all costs. I don't get it. I don't understand. But he's like the biggest homebody. Anyways, so just getting so much more quality time together has been super sweet. And we've kind of, did you ever read about that story? The family who, the Russian family who fled religious persecution and lived in the Russian taiga, which is like kind of forest just below the tundra area.
No, Steven, are you familiar with that? I'm not familiar with that at all.
I haven't heard that.
Okay. So they, I think they lived for either 30 or 40 years in complete isolation. Wow. One of the sons would like literally run down deer until they became exhausted and then carry them back. Okay. And one time they had, I'll let you read the article somewhere. It's really good.
Yeah, no, we'll have to find that.
We'll
link it, because
totally.
Honestly, this sounds so far, and I know you just got started, but you guys know the Croods, the cartoon for kids, family movie Croods with their caveman. It's not the best movie, but this is already making me think of like the family going on hunting and chasing like little dinosaur stuff. I'm picturing the Croods family, but this kid running after a deer and being like, just keep going. It's fine. I'm going to wear you out. Yeah. Like that already is bizarre. So I'm excited to hear where this is going, but.
Well, so, and then another form of entertainment that they used was they would recount their dreams to each other. So like they would just sit around, you're like, that's kind of bizarre feeling in a normal context, but in total isolation, you start developing like family culture in some deeper ways. So me and my son read through The Lord of the Rings recently. The oldest, he's 11. And then we watched the films together. And then he's like, I think I can do The Hobbit. And he was stoked that it was 3 movies too. And I'm like, it's not that good though. So actually, I found a fan edit. Anybody? Fan edit. So it edits the total runtime from like 9.5 hours to 4.5.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen many fan edits, but the things I like are the edits of like you take a movie and you make a trailer where like I've seen Garden State and Elf turned into a horror film. Like that's the kind of stuff, the fan stuff that I love. But I have not actually, because I know I've heard a lot about like the Watchmen fan movie where someone totally re-edits the movie to make it more like the book and everything else. So yeah, I haven't sat down and watched one of those, but I'm very interested, especially if you said that cuts out all the excess we'll put and probably makes it the meat of it. Yeah, that's cool.
So we did that. He started making bows and arrows that can fly across the backyard and penetrate cardboard. So
that's awesome.
I'm pretty impressed with him. Like, I think I probably made a bow and arrow out of like a curved stick one time and was like pretty unimpressed with the like, drawback power. But he just kept like working on it. He's such like what's it called when a tinkerer.
A tinkerer, yeah. Very cool.
That's a part of my brain that I only have in music. Music and I don't know, philosophy, theology, maybe. Constantly tinkering.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, our family culture has just like really deepened. We've celebrated the birthday of one of our youngest stuffed animals a couple times.
Nice.
Anyways, the family side has been super sweet. Creatively, I had to throw a lot of energy, 1, into finishing taxes, and 2, into canceling the tour that we had planned. So, I had a tour that was fully booked in April, and then I was playing at South by Southwest in March, which was one of the first things to get canceled. And then, basically, I would imagine for the rest of the year, not many people are going to be playing much of anything. But I am kind of trying to hatch a little scheme that would involve national parks and low-key small attended meetups. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Social distancing.
Like instead of house shows, it's park shows. Is that what the?
Well, let's see. We're just starting to kind of dream about like what would it look like to get the family out into some open national and state parks, and then is there a way that we could reasonably invite a few people to some like reasonable public areas, but in small numbers?
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, like one of the questions that I have is like how, coming from obviously living in Mexico and now you're back in Oklahoma, how do you spend your time like during the day now? Do you feel like you're, I've noticed in my own life that things shifted with knowing that we're like, okay, well, I'm going to be at home for a while. Like then my mind kind of shifts away from certain things that maybe I put a big importance on, kind of in that work-life balance thing, like Grant and I did a previous episode of work-life balance and trying to figure out like, is that even a thing? Like, is that, is there even a perfect balance, or is there like a thing that is this achievable in a certain way? But like my question for you is like, you guys, move as a family to Mexico and now you're back. Like, how has that shifted things, especially with the quarantine? Like, do you find yourself like having to block out time? Like, how do you kind of work your normal routine to like stay sane, not only as a musician, but like as a dad with kids?
Yeah. I had a friend say it like push the pedal that's up is like how you maintain balance on a bike, and life isn't a bike, but it is a good metaphor for like, if you feel like you haven't connected to like your daughter in like this week, then maybe you should plan to go for a walk, no, what I do, which I actually have started in lieu of not being able to tour and with the desire to be able to continue earning a living somehow, I started doing some kind of like life coaching stuff. I've kind of consolidated the managerial side of my brain, and which would be maybe the left side of my brain. But try to consolidate, like I do like a dreaming exercise once a year that I pair with a goal making exercise. And so I do those once a year. And with the goal making, I basically had to throw out like one of the big goals, which was to play like 60 shows between the release of the record and the end of this year.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to let that go. And I need to figure out what I want to do at this time. And so I have basically rewritten that goal as to work on and finish an EP that will hopefully be ready by this fall, but I'm currently working on finishing writing. And then I'll start tracking and all that stuff. But I'm pretty religious, you might say, about keeping a little
There it
planner
is.
totally
Yeah.
falling apart. But
Man, you
so
are
I've got my
Aaron.
little it's pretty
Love
in the
it.
best of
Love
ways,
it.
of course. Yeah.
yeah, like last night, usually the night before, I'll just like try to allocate some time and energy towards kind of like maintaining spiritual health, working out, and then like what are my big things that I'm trying to work towards every day. And then like yesterday I had played chess with Leaf. So we played chess and I ended up going on a walk with Ramona. So it was like good connection time with the fam. And sometimes I just write down like engage with Lane, which we do, like we're home all the time. So, but like, you know, maybe it's just like a simple question of like, what have you been thinking about lately? You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. In a weird way, I found that you have to be not more intentional. It's just a different brain space, because normally like even in like in my day to day, like before coronavirus, I would go to work. So there's like a clear distinction that dad is going to work, husband, you know, I'm off, and then I will come back, and then we'll create some intentional time for when I'm back. But now that's like everything is just kind of melded together. You know, you still have to kind of figure out some of those intentional times, just like you were saying, like go on a walk or spend some time with them. And I, even like with our kids, we say we're going to go on dates, and we used to, you know, take them to a Starbucks or something or whatever. And we actually started talking about what would that look like now? Like we could just take one of them in the backyard and spend time with them there. Like it doesn't have to be this thing. It's like kind of shifting, like, well, instead of like doing this, it's almost like grounding us in the sense of like, well, no, it's about the time we spend. Then now what do we got to figure out here at the house? Like for my son, it might be, he just got a new drum set. So it's like, hey, I'll go out and I'll just mess around on a drum. I don't know how to play it, but like just hearing him and seeing him play it for me is a huge deal, you know, and that might be like super exciting for him. And it's like that intentionality with each child, and even with your wife, like that's huge. Like Sarah and I try, you know, you have to, even like we've created still a date night, but it's like in our backyard when the kids go to bed. You know, it's like it's different, but it's like you still have to do those things, because otherwise it just feels so monotonous, right? Like you just kind of you kind of forget what day it is, and you're kind of floating through life. And so like you know, I love seeing the journal thing, because man, I get into it. Look at this. Look at that.
Yes,
See?
Kyle.
Goodness, you guys, I feel like I need a journal now. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
Let's see.
this
Okay,
is-
wait. Here's my list. Let me just. It's right here. It is basically the same thing every day. Wake up and have breakfast. Have lunch. Try not to bother my wife too much about, you know, making sweet love to me, because I keep reminded, even though we're here together every day, you gotta just like hold on, scoot back 6 feet, and then dinner, and then it's somewhere. It's also take care of the kids, but that's somewhere on the list too.
Not bad, man.
We you know, we try. My wife is a list maker in our family, so we actually sat down last night and we had like a 2-hour discussion, and my wife is what I say is mega pregnant, and she keeps reminding me I'm just regular pregnant. There's no like additional pregnant. But when you get that,
that mega pregnant might be correlated with the making love thing. That might. Could be some correlation there with the word usage.
Is it too late for twins at this point? Yeah. So, but that's the thing is like, I always say, I joke with her that she's mega pregnant now because it's the last month. And of course the last month is super uncomfortable and she's having a hard time getting around. And this is the fourth time she's done this. So her body is like, okay, like I'm ready, or like whatever it is, where she's just like, I'm beat up. Right. And so we sat down and had a conversation last night, which I thought for sure she was going to go to bed because it was very early. And we ended up sitting and talking for about 2 hours. And it was just like, look, these are the wants and the desires that we have. And it was about like, we've been in quarantine and we've not been making the best use of our time. And like you're saying, engaging, it may be sitting and watching a movie. It may be sitting in the backyard and talking, or for us, it was sitting down and just going like, look, let's reevaluate where we are right now. Because both of us are under so much stress. We had the double car thing happen this week, and the baby's coming, and like there's so much stress that comes with the quarantine on top of this pregnancy and just being a parent and trying to be there, that taking that time and just talking about like, look, you just mentioned date night. We just said, hey, we do have a baby monitor. We haven't used it for a long time, but we have a baby monitor. Like we could set it up now before the baby's here in the kids' room, and we can go out back and sit and just like talk outside. And like these are not the things that occurred to us before, and these are things that are like you said, you have to make them intentional. You have to I guess I need a journal. I have to have the list so I can remember to do this. But we did talk about like there's some projects around the house we want to do, and she's asked me to do them, and I go I just forgot, because there's just stuff that like I have so much on my mind. This is my list. It's not very effective. So I forget very easily. So we actually talked about like, even though I hate lists with a passion, I literally was the last one. I was like, look, let's make a list of things that need to be done. And that's just each day we'll go, are you able to do one of these things? And if we're not, we can't, that's fine. But we have it there so we can see it and we can like try to progress forward. So, I love that you guys have the list. I probably gonna have to break down, like really just do it for myself, because you guys, it's clearly working for you guys, and I need to.
Well, the list looks different. Listen, because my daily journal makes Sarah like roll her eyes. She's like, oh my gosh, that's insane. But that's because like my brain, I'm so structured, and it's so meticulous. I spend so much time filling it out. And she's like, we just need to do something, So I think it's different for everybody, right? It's like some people just need to write a list, and some people put it on their phone. Some people like, write out a full thing. And there's like, in mine, there's like, what are you grateful for? You do that in the morning and the night and all this stuff. But sometimes that doesn't work for everybody. And I think that's, to me, I'm like, I even told Sarah, I was like, don't do this. That doesn't work for you. You will not, like, you'll do it one day, and then the next day you'll be like, that's dumb. I'm not going to do it. You got to find like something that works for you. And even if that's like on your phone, setting the reminder thing that like, dings at you to like go do something. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think taking the time like you did last night to just create that list and kind of reevaluate every once in a while, like hearing you, Zach, with Lane, like when you guys were going to go do the Mexico thing, it's like you sit down and you just kind of go, okay, like, let's talk through this. Like, because these are, even though they feel like small decisions sometimes, like when it's the day-to-day stuff, like, okay, well, we need to like clean the garage, or like, do that thing out back, or if it's bigger things, like we really, want to move to a different country and learn a new language. All those kinds of things are conversations that are constantly working back and forth. And one thing that I've kind of worked on recently with all the COVID stuff is this idea of like momentum. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts, but basically like the idea is that things are more exhausting in this COVID thing. Doing like normal daily things seem like they take so much more energy than they used to. How do I still remain productive, but not for productivity's sake, right? It's not, I'm just being busy just to be busy so I don't have to think about something. But like for me, it's like we have all these things that we want to do. And so I've kind of worked on this idea of momentum where even if it's 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm working on something each day. And I try to take a little time to work on it. Like there's one thing where I'm trying to create this class that I'm doing. And I was like, okay, well, it's too overwhelming to like try to do it all in one night, or like cram, do that thing where you stay up really late to try to finish something. But I was like, well, if I can start a week in advance and do 5-10 minutes here, it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And I actually, for me, end up doing something better than I would have like trying to cram that in. And I really like it because it's this idea of like you're building momentum, you're seeing some progress, and it's bigger in some days, smaller on others. But it's like this idea where it's just continuing to roll. Have you guys kind of experienced anything like that, or during this COVID or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree that I feel like the kind of atmospheric stress of COVID is it's kind of like I don't know if you've ever gone into like your activity monitor and tried to figure out what's making your computer overheat or something.
Great example.
And you're like freaking Chrome helper again. Yeah, so that's what it feels like COVID is doing to all of our brains, just on the like societal, larger, big picture level. So and especially like my wife was sick last week, and she went in and got tested on Monday. We didn't get the results back from what they said was going to be 48 hours. We didn't get it back till the next Monday. So during that week, especially, my creativity definitely took a dip as I was trying to like research different symptoms, and like, I just felt kind of lost in the like waiting. Yeah. But what I've tried to do before then and after is, like you said, like the idea of momentum, I try to create like minimums that I would be happy with. And that do make some progress. So like for me, the most important bit that I'm working towards of the goal of like putting out an EP in the fall is finishing writing. So what I do to trick myself into writing is like today I have write for 10 minutes. And if I can commit to sit down for 10 minutes to write, I will usually write for 30 minutes, and sometimes an hour. But if I just do the 10 minutes and I'm feeling pretty uninspired or whatever, and I'm just kind of running through these chords and words over and over, then I just put it aside, and I'll be like, oh, I did the 10 minutes, and I know that from 2 months ago to now, like my writing muscle is just more like flexible and more able to actually generate ideas. And so that's kind of what it's looked like for me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been, I mean, we've had so much stress over here that just the thought of that and the thought of taking little things at a time is difficult. Now, it's not impossible. We have been doing little things like, I went to storage and I got things from storage, and then, okay, they're here, and then tomorrow I'll clean them, right? So it's like we have so many steps for the baby. We have the bassinet, we have all this stuff we're getting ready. And, the same thing, part of our conversation last night was like, okay, we have 5 days. Like, now we need to amp it up, because we've done little bits, but we haven't been able to, like, the day that the car went down, I was planning on doing all this stuff. We got a bunk bed for the kids, and it came from IKEA. So when it comes from IKEA, it's in a million pieces. You got to put it together. So, I've got that, and it's a whole matter of like, okay, now I just need to like put it together. And each day or each night we've had something that's kind of like pushed it back, where I go, okay. And that's one of those things, like, I would love to like get it out. Like I talked to her about, I'll get it out and I'll build just the side pieces so we can move it in there, and then we can put it complete. But if I do that when the kids are asleep, and then when they wake up in the morning before I wake up, they'll be like, oh, what's this? And then all of a sudden I picture a bunk bed falling on somebody, so those are the kind of things that do hold me back from it. But yeah, we've been trying to be like, okay, you can see this. We've got a box in the corner. Okay, let's just grab one box today. Okay, let's just see if there's crap in it that we don't need. If there's crap in it we don't need, then we'll either toss it out or put it in a bag that sometime when Goodwill opens up again, we'll bring it to Goodwill. And, so yes, that is our process. It's been tough for the creativity part of it, because I feel like I've been, creative with my children to an extent. Some days are better than others. Some days you're just like, I can't do this today. Put on a show. Okay, I'm checked out because I need some time. But like you're saying, when you're saying, okay, you just do the 10 minutes and then you go from there. It's a great idea because I have some stuff that I've still needed to get done. And unlike where you guys are like, oh, I'll tackle a little bite at a time, I keep thinking I need the whole meal. And if I don't have time to sit down and have the whole meal, I can't finish this. And so that is one of those things that is a block for me that I have to like, okay, you gotta take one bite at a time. Right. And so, yeah. And here we are, the baby's going to be here in a few days. So I don't know if it's too late for me to take one bite at a time, but you know, you got to start somewhere. Right. So yeah, that's what we got to push forward and do that. So that's what we're
having some babies just slept in drawers anyways, right? I mean, you got time, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we do have enough drawers there. We could probably just stack that up, and it's essentially a bunk bed anyway, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, it's the fourth kid too. It's not like you're measuring, you know, you're waiting on bated breath every single day to make sure that they're normal.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, come on. Do I have any normal kids? I mean, I love my kids, but there's no sense of normal.
But there's a huge difference, right?
Weird.
I mean, like all of us here have 3 kids, and
Yeah.
you're about to have your 4th. I mean, it's so different for the 3rd child than it was the first. It's like,
gosh, I know.
I literally have a photo book of the first 6 months with Peyton, our oldest, and no other photo book for any other child or any other stage.
we have those canvas like family photos that are like, now we're like, oh no, our house is just going to be those because there's so many of them. But at a time we have like the first family photo we had was us and Avery. My first son was 6 months. And it was like, oh, that's so cute. And then it was like, we did a picture every 6 months. So then the next 6 months maybe it's a year. Oh, it was every year. So he was a year and a half. And we go, oh, baby sister's in mom's belly in that picture. So technically he's only in the first picture just by himself. Then it's him and then he's in mom's belly. And the next picture is her at 6 months. And then there's Avery, you know, I'm not good at math, but you know, they're ages 2.5 and, you know, and you keep going. And then the next one over here, okay, that's got brother in the belly. Okay. And then you go over here and then all of a sudden there's this gap where our 3rd child, his first picture is not at 6 months. It's at 1.5. And we're like, oh, what happened there? Well, we missed a year. Okay, get over it. But that's what happens, right? It's like the more kids you have, it's like we didn't do the belly pictures every week. Like my wife would send me the updates each week that would say, hey, the baby's this size of what fruit, you know? And I'd go, okay. Where before I'm like reading everything going, oh, this is amazing. And now I'm like,
yes.
Okay, let me take care of these other 3 first, and then I'll get that. You know, and now we're talking about like, oh, well, we were going to do a family photo again before this baby comes, because our littlest one is now about to turn 3 next month. So we definitely have been more laxed on the family photos. And then when we were about to schedule it, okay, well, COVID shuts everything down. So we're like, well, I don't know when we're going to have it. Well, you know, not the go into the studio and get the family picture. We're going to have to do it ourselves and figure that out, which is fine. But it's like our tradition of going and doing that has slowed because it's like, okay, how can we get all of us together? How can you get all of us to smile at one camera and just do this and have a nice family memory, you know, like that's what it turns into. So yeah, it's definitely the Wild West that we're going into with the 4th child. But we are officially done at this point. This is we're capping out at 4. We're capping out. Officially official. Yeah. We you know, we've had the conversation of getting tubes tied and snipped and whatever else. And, you know, my wife's kind of like, well, should I do it? And I'm like, you know, why don't you do it and I'll do it? And then we'll just really make sure that we won't have another child.
That's the only way. That's the only way it's going to happen.
I know. No, I mean, but that's the thing, you know, I mean, you guys have 3 kids. It is a house full of noise. Right. But it's also a house full of love. And that's what's awesome about having so many kids. And honestly, it has forced me to be creative, right? We're filmmakers, you do music. We are in a creative business, but we also have to be creative when it comes to doing these date nights. And you have multiple kids with multiple personalities. You as a dad have to be creative and figure out how to mend those relationships, how to grow those relationships. You know, I mean, that's one of the things for us. We try to figure out, I know you guys have talked about the dates and going on dates for your kids. What's one thing, like, I love what you were saying about how the family share dreams together. Like, I know we're isolated now, but that is something like we still try to do that. We share dreams, but we also share jokes. Like we sit down at dinner, and one of the things we do to be creative and flex our creative muscles, probably because I love comedy, is we work on knock knock jokes or any other kind of joke like at the dinner table. So we will sit there and do knock knock jokes all dinner long and just try to come up with something funny. And that like that for us, that's what we do as something creative each day. That's our 10-minute thing that we try to do as a family, and reconnect at the dinner table and try to make each other laugh. So, I mean, what about you guys? You guys have a moment like that with your kids, that you're doing something that's flexing your creativity as opposed to just your own like careers?
Yeah. So we've done a lot of different things at dinner. Probably the most popular right now is me or my wife will ask a question that everybody like reflects on or something. And it's usually something like, if you could become another animal, what would you want to be and why that animal? Or like, if you could build like a perfect like island, what would it be like? Or if you had a perfect house, or kind of like ideal or bizarre kind of, get creative about that. For a little while, which I kind of want to bring back, we would do, like I would kind of start a beat just on the table, and we would do kind of call and response stuff, which is pretty fun. Yeah. And then we do high, low, high sometimes, which is pretty fun. Although Apollo, our youngest, like he only does highs. But he'll usually say, I'm gonna do another low, and then he'll just do another high, and so it's like 4 highs or something. And
one thing that I've noticed is that I feel like that when I've done questions like those at the dinner table with the kids and stuff, is weirdly enough, like it starts out to be like, let's have a conversation, let's try to connect with our kids, and then sometimes you really find some insight into where they're at, like what they're thinking, kind of what their attitude of life is, what they're, kind of that aura about them kind of comes out in these things, right? I mean, it's like when you ask, like, what's your ideal thing? Or like we've said, like, if you're on an island, what 3 things would you bring with you? Those kinds of questions, you kind of, in a weird way, you start to kind of understand your kids a little bit more. It doesn't always happen that way, but sometimes there's little insights where you're like, he or she was talking about this thing, and it really like, it made me think like, oh, okay, this is where she's at. Maybe she needs some help in this area, or even just like, our kids are really super happy and they really like doing this one thing. Maybe we should do more of that. Have you had that kind of experience?
Yeah, you like see them in a new way. Kind of like just kind of all kinds of creative ways to all kinds of paths, like through conversations, to kind of excavate or discover like the people that they are, which is it's like a fascinating, wild thing. Especially you guys have 3, about to have 4 kids. Like, we have been more or less the same parents. I know some things flex and change, and like the more you have, it's like, Apollo has had a lot different childhood, but even still, it's like they're just wildly different in ways that you couldn't like control for. And it's just like this fascinating, there are things that like, there's things where I'm like, I know exactly, like I can tell what you're thinking because I was the first child, and you express kind of this part of my personality, but then like this side I don't have at all, and I don't know what drives you towards that. And our daughter is probably the biggest mystery of all to me, in a wonderful way. Like one time we were sitting listening to some music, and just the 2 of us, and she had kind of like a glazed, far away look, and I was like, what are you thinking about, Ramona? And she like, her eyes kind of like woke up, and she like didn't want to tell me at first, and I just encouraged her, if she wanted to, I'd love to hear. And she ended up telling me this like bizarre, like sort of not vision, but this like picture that was going through her head of like, maybe I won't share because maybe she wouldn't want me to, but it was just like absolute amazing like fantasy world that she was in. And I was like, man, like the things that are like swirling inside of her personality. And I just want to be the kind of dad that helps pull out the best in my kids, help them have like a safe place where they're like grounded in knowing that they're loved in our home, and that they're encouraged in their strengths and helped in their weaknesses and shown grace. And yeah, it's just kind of like a wonderful discovery that just happens every day before your eyes. And if you could watch it in time lapse, it would feel like a total miracle, you know?
It really does. And honestly, so I love the, like, we're talking about how you're posing a question and then you kind of like talk about it at dinner time with your kids. We did that the other day on Mother's Day, and you guys might be glad to hear this, but the question was, if you could take mom anywhere, you could get on a plane, you can go anywhere you want. It's just you, mom, and you guys have a date vacation. Where are you going to be? My son said Mexico. I was like, great, that sounds great, because mom went to Cabo in the last few years, so they're thinking like, oh yeah, mom would love Mexico. That sounds great. So it's just little things like that I think are great to be creative. I love that. One thing we do is, like, my kids say, Dad, what do you want me to draw? And I try to, instead of just like a cat or a dog, I say like a dragon with pants on, like, you know, or a unicorn with a nose ring. Like, I try to just like mix a couple weird things together so they go, all right, you know, like, let me try to figure that out, because is if they're not the ones like having that weird imagination, I'm going to try to like plant the seed and kickstart a little bit so they can then flourish and go off. And I was going to share this with you. This is one thing we did, and speaking of creativity, you know, Mother's Day was this last week, and we couldn't go out to the flower shop, so we did a quarantine bouquet. Let me see if I can show you. But these are our the kids did flowers, right?
That's
so
great.
if you want to score points with the moms in your lives, this is the way to go. But what we did basically, right, is, I know if you guys can't see it at home, what it is basically I drew 3 different kind of flowers, which I think is a rose, I think is, the kids say sunflower, but like gerber daisy, and then a tulip. And then, you know, this is my youngest. I would have them sit down and color it in a page, and then they would color this little leaf, and I'd let them pick what flower to put it on. And then this little blue stuff is supposed to be our water. So like, that's the kind of stuff we would try to do, because I want them to, like we said, I want them to be able to flex that creative muscle. And it's not easy when we're stuck at home or when there's easy to access screens or whatever else. So yeah, I love to hear what you guys are doing with your kids. I love that you guys are helping those imagination flourish. You know, it doesn't take a lot to work with imagination. And I think, you know, yes, filmmakers, musician, like, we do things that are creative. I know I just mentioned that, but like, lots of you dads that are out there, like, it doesn't take a lot of creativity. You just have to help like nourish it in your children. And if that's just plain pretend, put it on your list, 10 minutes of playing pretend with your kids, that goes such a long way with them. And yeah, I mean, we all have creative in us. We are all artists. And that's, you know, one thing that, even if you're a scientist or a mathematician or an accountant, you are an artist. So, you know, that's one of those things, like, I want all of you to remember as dads, and, you know, give that to our kids. It's one of the best gifts we could probably give them. So that way they can literally be by themselves in a room and entertain themselves. They don't have to have much. You can use that imagination. You can be isolated in Russia, outside of wherever that was you said, chasing deer, and you can entertain yourself. It is something you can use for a lifetime. So yeah, I love it. I love that that's what you do. I love that you guys do that with your kids. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, and
sorry. We also trade storytelling sometimes.
Oh, nice.
So our youngest can easily be tipped or forced into telling stories. I'll be like, hey, I'm not going to go get you a drink of water until you tell me a story. So I'll be like, oh, and then one day it'll start straight into it. And,
that's awesome.
And it's so fun. Like, we've definitely at different times throughout their growing up so far done a lot of storytelling. And I like did not ever consider myself a good storyteller, but I had some friends who were, and the power of somebody who can tell a good story is just kind of magic. And So I was like, these kids don't know that I'm not a good storyteller. So I can just like fail over and over and get better and better at it. And, you know, right now I have a serial going with our youngest that I just pick up somewhere where Rocky Raccoon left off, and created a few characters, a few different places where he goes, and kind of like we're expanding the world every evening. So it's good times.
Are you jotting notes down to keep that in mind? Because I tell stories and the kids go, "Tell that one that you did," and I go, I don't remember
No
that
idea.
one. Yeah. So
I never retell story.
okay.
I might retell like weirdly. I started all the kids out on the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And one of the famous stories from that is where they encounter the Cyclops, and then end up getting him drunk and stabbing his eye out with a gigantic stake. So
Great for kids.
Yeah. I've started them all out on that story. I don't know why. And I have retold that one to Apollo quite a few times. The Cyclops is what he calls it.
Nice.
But, yeah, but I don't usually retell. I do like serials though, because you can use like one or two characters, and for some reason, like it's not that hard to do the like mind palace like world building of the first day they just go over here and there's like a river and they catch some fish or whatever, and then the next day they follow the river down and they find out where it goes to a waterfall. They climb down the waterfall the next day and there's like a cave that opens up underneath and they find like some jewels in there and like yeah, it's just and then just the world gets bigger and bigger, and it's not hard to go back when you kind of are reusing some characters but not the same story.
That's
well,
great.
and the thing is, right, as a dad, this is not like, it's separate. This is not your work life where it's like, oh, I got to build a story that like people are gonna vibe off of and then buy something that I'm creating. It's like no, this is the main thing, is that you're interacting with your kids and you're paying attention to what they're doing. And like you mentioned, there's certain characters that one kid might respond better to, or and then that's how you kind of create your story. We even use, because funny enough, Sarah and I both love video games. But Sarah loves like the more puzzle level games. And so we've played Animal Crossing. And so literally yesterday I was outside in the backyard and I was like, honey, what are you doing? And my oldest was sitting on the edge of the pool and she had some kind of stick and she was like sitting like this. And I was like, are you fishing? Because it was like a bow and arrow thing or whatever. It's clearly not a fishing thing. She's like, yeah, I'm fishing. This is our island. And I was like, oh, Animal Crossing. Got it. So then I was like, then I jumped in just for a couple of minutes. Like, I was like, okay, cool. Like where, can you tell me where I can go? Is there another tent or somewhere that I can be at? And it's just like, to me, what the nice thing is with kids, it doesn't take a lot of time. Right. It just takes you to kind of jump into their world for a minute, invest some time because they're human, like sometimes I think we forget that they have their own wants and desires and things. And so as a dad, to jump into their world and just play in it sometimes, oh my gosh, like they just light up like a Christmas tree,
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun to watch. And so like Grant, like you said a bunch of times, like one of the big things that we want to make sure other dads that are listening is that you don't have to have some, typical creative career in order to be creative with your kids or be involved in their lives or to really invest in their future. It's all about taking that time, and it's it's a daily thing. And it looks different every day. Sometimes you don't do a great job. Sometimes you do a really good job. And so you gotta have to give yourself some grace, but it's about continuing to show up, right? It's like continuing to be there so that they know, like, like when dad says, I need to hear a story if you want to get some water, that's a fun thing. And it's not like this weird, like, why are you trying to like interact with me? That it feels very much a part of their life.
And, Zach, you were talking about how you didn't feel like you were a very good storyteller. And I totally understand that. Although I think you're underestimating yourself, because I feel like you probably tell a story in 3 to 4 minutes every time with your guitar. So you probably are a great storyteller, just maybe not in the traditional sense of verbally telling the story of the kids. But for someone who isn't a great storyteller, like even those nights where like, okay, some nights I've got a story and it's great and we're going and the world's expanding and it's vivid and you get done and you go, yeah, that was good. Dad did a good job. You know, I know there are those nights, but there's also the nights where the kids go, I want a story. And you go, I have nothing left to give. Like, I don't know what to do or say. Here's what we use. I use the kids and I use the 3-act structure of jokes. Okay. It's the setup, punchline. But for me, what we do is the traditional story that's a go-to for me. And any version of this is mom's in trouble. And there's 3 kids and they have to go through 3 obstacles to help mom, right? That is like our go-to story. And now we have 3 kids, but if you have 1 kid, you can have 1 kid do 3 things. If you have 2 kids, you have 2 kids do 3 different things. Like you can vary it up, or you can do individual and have them have to work as a team and try to use kind of that team building aspect of it. But really that structure of like setup, punchline, it works. And it is that formula. It's like the Marvel movie where you go, I know I'm going to sit here and watch this Marvel movie. I know what I'm going to get, but I'm still going to enjoy it. That's great. Especially younger kids. Like my younger kids, they love that. And it's, if you're a dad out there and you're like, I'm not a good storyteller, try it. Just try it. Just take some basic like Mad Libs type thing and add in their names and their favorite colors or sports or whatever it is. And then you've got a story and you can grow from there. And like I said, you can serialize that, you can go on, but if you just have nothing, if you feel like I'm not great at it, that's a great tip to just get you going, get you in the game. Because there are definitely some days where they say, Dad, tell us a joke, tell us a story. And I go, all right. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Sometimes I do, also to keep it like really simple, I'll do ones where there's like nothing really happening in the story, no big things to conquer or anything like, and a lot of like old short stories for kids. Or for example, like Winnie the Pooh, there's nothing like super dramatic that happens or some huge problem to solve. It could just be as simple as like, I went to the refrigerator and I couldn't find the applesauce and I looked all through the house and I looked in this room and I looked at that room and finally I found it in the backyard where Rocky the raccoon was eating it.
Totally. Yeah.
And asking them to give you those prompts and stuff too helps. And they then are, I mean, they might wake up if it's at bedtime, like, they might get a little energy, but ultimately you're engaging them in a way that, like we've talked about, you're using their imagination and they feel invested in the story. So they're not just listening. They're like, okay. Like, yeah, I'm with this. Like, what is Rocky Raccoon going to do? Like, did he find the applesauce? Like he found the applesauce, but he didn't have what? A spoon. Yeah, he didn't have a spoon. It's like, then you have so much to build off of and they're there in it with you. So, I mean, stuff like that has been so helpful for me as a dad. I honestly don't know what I would do without it. It's gotten to the point now with the prompts, which is great. My son now goes, okay, Dad, give me 2 things. I'm like, what are we talking about? And he's like, just any 2 things. And I go, okay, a banana and underwear. And he's like, okay, all right. And he'll come back and like a minute later, he's like, okay, I've got a joke. What did the banana say to the underwear? And then he's got some, but this is because I've practiced it as dad, then my kids will start to pick that up and hopefully someday they can pass it on to their kids and, be better. I mean, that's the goal. So.
Well, Zach, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast with us. I'm so excited that we were able to actually make this happen, even though like coronavirus, we're all kind of stuck at home. We're all busy with family now. We're still got a ton of things going on. So thank you so much for taking the time to jump on this episode.
Yeah. And Zach, where can people find your music if they want to follow you or listen to your music?
Yeah, ZachWinters.com, ZACH Winters.com. Or mostly for social media, I use Instagram, which I'm currently the Zach Winters, which is a little preposterous and whatever. But
that's all right. With Twitter, everybody had the real whatever for the longest time because everybody had a fake Twitter also. So, it happens. It happens. Well, Zach, are you ever doing any like little live performances on Instagram Live? You done any of that stuff yet?
Yeah, we've done some Instagram Live. We've done I think that'll probably be the place where we'll pop up next. We've done some on Facebook and a few like on YouTube, but we'll probably be on Instagram next. So
That's great. So dads out there, you guys check out Zach, check out his music. And if you follow him, then, it may pop up on your phone that he's got some live music happening. So I'm sure it's something great. You can sit down with your kids and enjoy it, have a little dance party, enjoy that music like you're in a park somewhere, right? Go sit in your yard, listen to Zach's music, and you can help him realize his dream of playing concerts in national parks. Zach, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And it's been great getting to know you the last hour.
yeah, no doubt. Thanks for having me. Good to spend time with you guys and hear some of your tips and tricks and wisdom and father heart and blessings with baby 4 coming along.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And the band.
A few
The
days
band's coming
away.
along, too.
All right. You guys stay safe. And thank you again. Check us out next week, or, I'm having a baby. So whenever the next episode is, deal with it. We're working on it. But remember to click subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. It helps us grow our podcast. And if you know a dad out there that needs some of this advice or needs some help, share it with them. We really appreciate you sitting here and listening to us or watching us on whatever platform you're on. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.